Today I want to talk about change. Change is a pretty common factor of the society we live in at the moment. All things are changing. But I want to talk about change as it relates to God and His kingdom. And God says, "I change not." In the book of Malachi in the Bible, in chapter 3, verse 6, it says, "I am the Lord, I change not." Humans, of course, change. We are subject to change continually. That's why we've ended up now with this theory of evolution, that people change and their ideas change and their systems change. Our thoughts are continually changing. But the difference between us and God is that God says He does not change. Some of the facts is that, as I see the situation, is that God keeps His word. He does not change. His word does not change. What He makes and He says as a promise is true, and we can trust it, and as humans we can have faith in His word. However, humans, we tend to lie, we change our words, and we have this postmodern concept of interpretation of our words, and that whatever we interpret it as personally, that for us is personal truth. So I believe there's a big difference between God, who claims to not change, God who claims to be the truth, and God who says that when He promises something, it will be kept. And us as human beings who change regularly and continually. Just going to give an example of some of these things happening in life. In the USA, they have a constitution, but this constitution was amended, and law changes can be made based on the amendments. We have the process of democracy, where once a certain number of people vote and decide they want that change, democracy happens. In New Zealand, we have a parliamentary system for lawmaking. We have a bill that's put into ballot boxes, and then one gets drawn out and is read, first, second or third reading. Submissions are made to that bill from the public, and then voting by the parliamentarians is made to decide whether that will become law. There's a risk involved that, though, because there's a risk of making mistakes. What if we choose the wrong personal bill out of the ballot box and it's not the real one that's suitable for the country at the time? What if the parliamentarians don't listen to the submissions made by the public, and they don't decide to hold a national referendum to decide what does the public think? But certainly in New Zealand there's the possibility of law change, and without a majority of the public voting on that, you can get whatever the numbers of votes from the parliamentarian representatives of the public. And we've got an example here where in New Zealand this week the law has come into effect for the change to the marriage law, and that now same-sex couples can be legally married, and their marriage can be registered and held as being a legal partnership arrangement. What does an individual do? Well, individuals can actually change things too. We might decide to change what we consider to be the current law or rule for us. We might decide that we don't want to do what might be God's law, or even the government's law, or even our family law with our parents. We might want to have our own law. So we think to change the times and the laws, as it says in the book of Daniel chapter 7 verse 25. This person who's countering the rules of the Messiah said he was thinking to change the times and the laws. And so we can think that we want to change something. such as we might decide to rebel against our parental laws and our parents' decisions and their rules governing our behaviour. So we want to change them. We think, yep, good idea, I'll change that. And then we look to peer support. We say, well, is there any other people around me who might want to agree with me on this and encourage me to practice that? Give me some support and comfort in this change of behaviour. And we get that with what we've had in New Zealand with the homosexual law reform bill. Is that now many people feel, well, I would be more comfortable if I could do and express my sexuality this way. And so we then use the political system and process of democracy to change the law to suit our new behaviour. The unfortunate thing is that this is not the first time this has happened in history, and it happens continually with human beings. In the Bible, in the book of Romans chapter 1, verse 23, it says, the people, instead of glorifying God, they changed the glory of the incorruptible God into something corruptible. And then verse 25 says, they wanted to change the truth of God for a lie. And of course, the practical explanation is in verse 26 of chapter 1. Even women change the natural use of their bodies and their sexual parts of their bodies for the unnatural. And so this has been happening for right through history, is that people change what's natural, they change God's law into what they consider to be their personal law. How does this apply to us? Well, if humans can't trust the word or the law of other humans because we know they're human and they're not infallible, everything might be up for change. Everything might be up for personal interpretation. And of course that can bring anxiety. We're not able to control the consequences of our behaviour or our thoughts, and we have great anxiety. So if humans can't trust politicians who change the laws and they make new laws, and an example would have been that like in the time of Germany where Hitler decided to change the laws, called the Nuremberg laws. He brought in his own laws to do the behaviour he wanted to do, and the public generally did not have a say in that. And so that can bring fear and serious depression, thinking that these long-term consequences of these changes to the law, I have no control over. That can bring serious anxiety and serious depression. However, if a human being can have faith in what God says as the higher power, and that God's law never changes, and God's word never changes, this can bring on peace, great peace, and a hope for the future, because we can trust that God will keep his promise to us. His word's not going to change. His law will stay stable. And this brings us great feelings of peace and joy and hope, knowing that whatever changes around us, whatever's changing within us, may happen continually, regularly, but God's word and God's promise to us remains true. It is the truth. He will carry out his law.